Welcome to Inside Maine Tourism. My name is Kim Linloff, and I'm here today with Vaughn Stinson. Nice to see you, Vaughn. Today we have the owner of the Apple Farm and Lakeview Orchards coming on to talk to us about apple picking, because it is the season.
It is the right time of year for it. I saw a few leaves down on the way in today.
No, don't say it.
Oh yeah, I love this time of year.
It is. It's very, to have the humidity gone is a good thing.
It is, and the apples, the apples are just phenomenal this time of year. And I have purchased apple pies before from Lakeside Orchard, and they are phenomenal, really are.
When we were younger, we used to go up and do the apple farm route, so
yeah.
Very fun.
It'd be interesting to talk to him and see how the product is going this year, because it's another one of those things, kind of like the Maine lobster. The Maine apple's really got a great reputation. Been around a long time, and is one of the, I think, very vibrant part of the Maine agriculture scene in Maine.
Well, like Maine Maple Syrup Sunday, you're going to do that in March, and in September you're going to do the apple picking thing, and you come home with the cider and the bag of apples. It's great fun.
Yeah, I think that when you look at what we have to offer out there from the standpoint of things that you can take back and share with friends, and one of the things that is really exciting about this time of year, we have free apples in the Visitor Information Center for our guests that come in. That his orchard supplies them sometimes. The Maine Pomological Society does it, so it'll be interesting to get a little more information on that and how all of that works today. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with more on Inside Maine Tourism.
You've heard it all before. Come locate your business in our region. At Mid-Maine, we've got a different message. We say, come visit the Waterville region and let us show you a great place to live, work, and play. You'll find we offer a diversified economy, progressive business climate, and an outstanding lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Let us show you what we offer. It's easy to arrange a visit. Just a quick stop at the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce website will get you started.
Welcome back to Inside Maine Tourism, where today we're joined by Steve Meyerhands. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, you're one of the owners of the Apple Farm in Fairfield Center.
Yes.
And you are past treasurer of the Maine Pomological Society?
Correct.
It's a pleasure to have you here today. Tell us a little bit about your history in the apple industry.
Well, I started out as a humble picker. I had a summer job at what is now the Apple Farm. It was at that time in 1970. It was Wentworth Orchards.
Okay.
And it was owned by Royal Wentworth, who was 76 years old. And I worked out off and on for Royal for 4 years, and he could not continue and needed to sell the place. And his son had moved to Connecticut and was building helicopters and wasn't interested in the farm. Ah. So Marilyn and I, my wife Marilyn, were just out of college, and we thought this would be a grand lifestyle to embark upon, and so we borrowed every penny and bought the farm. And we thought it would be a great place to raise a family, and we were very interested in kind of the back to the land movement at the time. Yep. And maybe changing the way agriculture was done at the time, and so that's how we started. Over the years, we've expanded and contracted several times, and in 1999, we took over Lakeside Orchards, which is in Manchester. Okay, yeah. And presently, we farm 100 acres of apples on the two farms. And
Steve, about how many apple trees, when you say, how many apple trees do you think are out there on your property in total that you manage every year?
Well, I've never counted them, but I suspect there's 10,000 or more trees.
That's just amazing. 10,000 living, producing crop items out there. And I would imagine, what little bit I know about farming, that the upkeep, I mentioned earlier when we were talking, I have 5 apple trees at home, and if I would have ever known what 5 amount of work would be, I never would have planted the first one. So I can't imagine with hundreds of acres of them. But the cost of maintaining that must be a pretty big investment every year, I would guess.
Absolutely, and the cost is always there, whether you have a good crop or a poor crop. You always have a lot of fixed costs. You still have to spray the trees and keep them healthy, whether there's a good crop or not, and yeah, it's a challenge going from year to year.
Now in Maine, because one of the things we're really excited about this time of year, in all 8 of our visitor information centers, we give away Maine apples that are made possible by the Maine Pomological Societies and growers and harvesters like yourself, and the visitors just love it. They come in, so many states, Massachusetts shut all their visitor centers, all of ours are working and doing very well. And people come in for information, but we've got that box or bowl of apples sitting there on the counter along with a map to get to the areas where you can pick your own, because it's a great family activity.
Absolutely.
And you must get a lot of those out there that do those, looking for weekend things they can do together.
Oh yeah, it's a great pastime for the for the families, and whether they're 3 years old or 103. I mean, they love to get out. There's something primal about it, getting out into the orchard. You know, a little kid who's never seen an apple tree before, and they get so excited.
Yeah.
And it's great to see, I mean, that's one of the things that really gives us, the most pleasure is seeing how happy people out there and they get out there.
Well, I would have to say that's probably one of my fondest childhood memories is, Mom and Dad dragging my brother and I out. And then because once, it seems like the drive takes forever.
Yeah.
We grew up in Fairfield, so it did not take forever. And right on Western Avenue. It was very close.
When you're little, it seems like it's a long way out there.
And, we did the hay ride on the horses. And Dad, I'm like, why don't we just buy a bag? No, we had to pick our own. So we picked our own. How many varieties do you have?
We have between 40 and 50 varieties.
I didn't know there were that many.
Oh, there's hundreds. There's probably thousands, but there are only hundreds of commercially grown. Many are heirloom varieties, antique varieties that people nowadays are trying to save.
Right.
And many of them are new so-called designer apples that have been developed at the research stations, the universities around the country. And those are very popular in the market now, and have taken a lot of the shelf space away from the Macintosh, which is the mainstay of the Maine apple industry.
Well, that's the kind you're supposed to make your apple pie with, right?
Well, it's one of the most flavorful apples. It's really got a real apple flavor.
Well, I haven't cooked, I can't say I've really cooked a good apple pie. I've bought them from their kitchen in Manchester, which is phenomenal. If you're looking for a great apple pie, these folks have it. But I think the lady there the day I was talking to told me that it should always be a mixture of apples. You shouldn't have just one apple in apple pie. Am I right about that?
Well, to each his own. But we like to blend a couple of different varieties, 2 or 3. Some sweet and some tart, and you get a real balance that way.
Right.
And it makes for a rich pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys have an open house weekend, and I'm sure that all the apple farms do around the state.
Yeah.
When is it usually?
Our open house weekend is the last weekend of September at the apple farm.
Yep.
And then we have Manchester Apple Days at Lakeside, which is the first weekend of October. We have a parade, and there's all kinds of vendors that come and activities for the kids, and of course the wagon rides, the horse rides, and also this coming Sunday, September 9th, is the Maine Apple Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Which is really kind of the kickoff for the pick your own for the harvest season. And all the farms, most of the farms around the state are promoting that and have activities going on.
So does the Maine Pomological Society get involved in that?
Yeah, they kind of sponsor that. Yeah, sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's, we've got a lot of other things we want to cover. It's a really fascinating subject. I'd like to get into the packaging side of things and the shipping of it. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned and we'll be right back with more of Inside Maine Tourism.
You've heard it all before. Come locate your business in our region. At Mid-Maine, we've got a different message. We say, come visit the Waterville region and let us show you a great place to live, work, and play. You'll find we offer a diversified economy, progressive business climate, and an outstanding lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Let us show you what we offer. It's easy to arrange a visit. Just a quick stop at the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce website will get you started.
And we're back on Inside Maine Tourism with Steve Meyerhans from the Apple Farm in Fairfield Center. Can you tell us a little bit more about, once the apples are picked, the packaging, how they get to market, how far out of state do they go?
Sure. It's interesting that probably more than half of the expense of getting an apple to market occurs after they're picked.
Ah.
It's expensive to grow them, for sure, but the handling and the packing and the storage and the transportation expenses are substantial. So people may wonder why the price of fresh fruit is so high. Well, there are a lot of things involved.
Yes, sir.
There. So we put them into storage when they come out of the field. We put them into what they call CA, or controlled atmosphere storage, where we will load the room and then we'll seal it so it's gas tight. And then we will bring the oxygen level down from 21% in your ambient air down to 3%. And we'll put them in suspended animation so they don't soften. And we can keep them that way for 6 or 8 months. When we open the room, they're just like the day we put them in.
That is
So
really neat.
that has extended our marketing season from what used to be maybe 3 or 4 months in the old days to almost year-round.
Now, how does that apple ship? Does it start to ripen, so it ships?
Yeah, well, we have about 6 or 8 or maybe at the most 10 weeks to move that apple to market.
You know, Maine agricultural products have such a good reputation. They really do. I mean, we were, one of our shows we were talking about the Maine lobster and how iconic it is to Maine and the tourism product. And I know with visitors coming into the centers, as I said, tasting one of our apples and then going out and enjoying that. Is the international market for Maine apples pretty good?
Historically, Maine apples were grown for the international market.
Oh, they were?
Okay. They used to be picked, and the orchards formed along the rivers. They formed along the Kennebec and the Androscoggin especially.
Transportation.
And transportation issues. And the apples were shipped by barge in barrels down the river and to England, most of them, in the old days.
One rotten apple in the barrel, I guess, right?
Yeah, and years ago, there were hundreds of apple farms in the state of Maine. They were all grown for that market. And now we're down to less than 100 farms, and they're all for direct marketing, retail, and in-state.
We consume most of the Maine apples in Maine.
We do. We raise about 1 million bushels in the state of Maine. And that's down from probably 3 million 30, 40 years ago.
And how does this year's growing season compare to other growing seasons?
This year has been a challenge. It was
has.
too wet in the spring, particularly. Too much rain in the spring, dry in the summer, too dry in the summer. Now it's too wet in the fall.
Yeah.
So
really challenging.
Yeah, it's been a difficult season. The dry, open winter affected the way the
Does that
trees.
make the fruit smaller or less fruit, or how does that work?
Generally we get ample rains in Maine, so that most apple farms do not need irrigation. We get enough rain, the roots are deep enough so that they can find moisture throughout the year. In the western deserts where they raise most of the apples, they don't get the rain and they have to irrigate.
You said the western deserts of the United States?
Yeah, like Washington State, which is the big apple producing
right.
state
Yes,
in the country. Most of those apples are grown in central and eastern Washington, where it's a very, very dry climate. Yeah.
And the smaller apple in Maine just seems to be so much more flavorful to me. I don't know if that, you can grow these gigantic things, they look really neat, but they just don't seem to have the flavor as that smaller, freshly picked apple
My kids
does.
call them crunchy water.
Crunchy water. Well,
those big tasteless apples.
Now, if you take the apple production in Maine, is most of it eating apples? I mean, what percent of it is eating apples? What percent of it is cider, that type of thing, or processed?
Well, it's probably about 80% fresh market eating apples,
okay,
and maybe 20% for juice.
Mm-hmm.
And,
now, do we have apple canners in Maine, canneries that are actually canning our product?
We used to have many,
mm-hmm,
and apple cider used to be a mainstay of the Maine diet back in the 19th century.
mm-hmm.
Every town in Maine had its own apple mill.
Oh, I didn't
and
realize
there were,
that.
you know, as I said, there were hundreds of apple farms,
mm-hmm,
and any farm in Maine had a small orchard in the back, whether it was a dozen trees or 100 trees.
Yes, sir.
Virtually all the old Maine farms had their own orchards.
Oh, okay.
And they would take it to their local cider presser and
mm-hmm,
make the cider, and some of it was fermented, and some of it was drunk
see.
sweet, and you know, it was a source of sugar.
Yeah.
In the old days when,
yes, sir,
when sugar wasn't readily available.
Well, I've noticed too that we've got some very good winemakers in Maine, and they use a lot of apple juice. I'm not sure if that's the right terminology, but it's part of the wine basis of the wines they make.
There are a lot of new companies that have been formed in the last 5 years that are fermenting apple juice and making wine or apple brandy or hard cider.
Yes,
that's
sir.
coming back. And
now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, I've only had occasion one time to taste it, but I think it was Calvados, which is made from apples, I believe, and it's like a brandy, I guess, which was excellent. Yeah. But I don't think we have anyone doing that in Maine, do we?
I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody, but I couldn't tell you.
Well, there's Tree Spirits in Oakland that's
is
doing,
there?
that's
they
a brandy.
use our juice.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you, a bushel of apples, does that give you like a gallon of juice or a half a gallon?
More like 3.
3 gallons,
3
okay.
gallons, yeah.
Because I've always been amazed when we did the Maine maple syrup Sunday, it takes like, I think, 40 gallons
to get down
to get a gallon of that. So you get 3 gallons out of it. And then I remember I've seen the presses. Now, do you have a mechanical press?
Yeah, it's a hydraulic press.
Hydraulic press.
Presses at about 2,000 pounds of pressure. And
so you just put a bushel of apples in, and or is it?
Yeah, they come in on a conveyor belt and they go into the chopper.
Yes,
and
sir.
it makes a mash out of them, and then it's squeezed and the juice comes out into a carrying tank, and it's pumped into another holding tank. It's treated or pasteurized.
Yes, sir.
We do UV treatment, which is ultraviolet light, which is much more ecological, doesn't take the energy that it would require to heat up the cider, which also can change the flavor. So it's a better process, healthy process, and then it goes into another tank where we bottle it out of that.
Now, is there a dry sugar product that comes out of? Is there anyone that dehydrates the apple juice and then ends up with just the sweetener in it? I don't know that I've seen that.
I've heard of apple molasses or apple syrup that some processors are making.
So what happens to the byproduct after it goes through that? You've pressed it, you've got your juice or your cider. Then what happens to the pulp and the skin?
The pulp, which is also called apple pumice, can be used as a soil amendment. It can be composted, added to your compost pile, or we actually give a lot of it away to local livestock farmers who feed it to their pigs or their horses, or, you know.
Healthy.
That's the easiest way for us to
Yeah,
get rid of it.
well, it serves a dual purpose there, no doubt about that. Well, it's a fascinating topic. I mean, it's one that's so important to the Maine economy. I appreciate you coming with us today to share that story, Steve. And
Thank you.
It's a great product. I need to get out and get myself an apple pie.
I know, absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for Inside Maine Tourism.
Some Maine to Boston commuters still don't know about the Amtrak Downeaster. Of course, it's easy and affordable, but once you step on, you'll discover something else. This. Quiet. Real quiet. And space. Lots of space. On the Downeaster, you get plenty of room to move, spread out, think with no interruptions. It's the best way to get to Boston. And with the price of gas, it's so obvious. I always take the train.
You've heard it all before. Come locate your business in our region. At Mid-Maine, we've got a different message. We say, come visit the Waterville region and let us show you a great place to live, work, and play. You'll find we offer a diversified economy, progressive business climate, and an outstanding lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Let us show you what we offer. It's easy to arrange a visit. Just a quick stop at the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce website will get you started.
We take the train to the game because it's easy and affordable. The Downeaster saves us the hassle of driving and parking in Boston. With convenient arrival and late-night departure, it's so obvious. We always take the train.
Well, Vaughn, I was interested to hear that 80% of the apples go to market and that we consume the bulk of them right here in the state of Maine.
I was surprised at that. I would have thought, Kim, that more of them would have been shipped out of Maine, but I guess given the product, and there's really not that many of them in Maine. I think we're really pretty fortunate that we have what we do here, to be very honest with you.
Yeah, Steve spoke about the diminishing number of farms, and I'm sure obviously that's contributed to the fact that we're consuming them all right here within the state. But the history of it, that we used to, the rotten apple in the barrel that you were speaking of,
Yeah.
I mean, now I get it, I guess,
Yeah,
that we
exactly.
were shipping them back to England in barrels. And
Barrels of apples in and up and down the Kennebec River then again, all that river transportation before we got into roads and highways and interstates and trains and that type of thing. It is fascinating. And it's, the other thing, it's so labor intensive. It takes a lot of work to get that apple that we probably take pretty well for granted to the table. And I think, as I may have said at some point in time during the show today too, I have bought their apple pies out there before and they're excellent. I just think, apples are wonderful, but in a pie they're just unbelievably wonderful.
well, I know they have other things too. They have, apple cider, apple sauce. I mean, they have a wide variety of products that they sell, as well as crafts.
Yeah, and it's, at this time of year, it just kind of fits. It's a thing that you need to do and be a part of.
Grab a sweater.
Oh, yeah, take off. And it's a great, like I said, it's a great family event. I think as you talked about, too, as a kid you did. It's like, why are we here? But once you get there, it is a lot of fun. And, it's one of those things that, where do apples come from? Well, you get them in that plastic bag at the grocery store. You really don't. It comes from an orchard like this. And it really helps, I think, when you can see that up front and personal and close.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've hoped you've enjoyed this edition of Inside Maine Tourism.
You've heard it all before. Come locate your business in our region. At Mid-Maine, we've got a different message. We say, come visit the Waterville region and let us show you a great place to live, work, and play. You'll find we offer a diversified economy, progressive business climate, and an outstanding lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Let us show you what we offer. It's easy to arrange a visit. Just a quick stop at the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce website will get you started.